Hi everybody, welcome back. So this is my reading wrap up for the last week of March. So I finished quite a few books this week. But first of all, I made a caramel thumbprints today from the Best of Fine Cooking Cookies magazine. So that's my treat for this week for reading. So the first book that I finished was Strange the Dreamer. This was an audiobook that I listened to. It's by Lanny Taylor. And I actually was really enjoying it, but I kind of lost interest at the end because the romance was a little bit too much for me. And unfortunately, a romance that's a little too much can almost ruin this book for me. Next book that I finished was Shadow March by Tad Williams. This is the first book in the Shadow March trilogy. I read it in March. And I enjoyed it, but it kind of seemed like it was a retelling of the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. But since he wrote Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, I guess it's okay for him to copy his own work. Next book I finished was The Burning Maze by Rick Riordan. This was the third book in the Trials of Apollo. And this is the last one that was available for free on Kindle, so it's probably the last one I'll read for a while. I was enjoying it, and I liked it kind of more than the first two because I didn't feel like it was ruining Percy Jackson and his other series for me, but I could be wrong on that. Next book that I finished was The Last Town by Blake Crouch. This was the third book in the Wayward Pines series, and this wraps up what happens in Wayward Pines and how it all wraps up. I did enjoy it. I was really not sure how they were going to end it, and I guess they really couldn't end it any other way than they did, but it was okay. It wasn't the best ending ever. Next book that I finished was Wonder by R.J. Palacio. This is a story about a boy who is disfigured and he's going to school for the first time. I liked it, liked the movie. Wish some parts had been in the movie that were in the book, but I think they were both great, and the movie was a good depiction of the book, and the book was great too. Next book that I finished was Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West by Gregory Maguire. This book had a lot of hype around it, and I know that there's a play, and supposedly everybody loves the play. It was okay. I just didn't... I don't even know what to say about it. This book was okay, but there's a lot of things I just didn't like about it. The prose, for some reason I was kind of lost in the prose a little bit, and I mean, I knew I got everything that was going on, but sometimes the prose was a little much. And then just things kept happening that I was like, what in the world? Like, why would you put that in there? And they were just so weird. But hey, it's the Land of Oz. I guess you can use that as an excuse. But it was just okay. And the last book that I just finished was The Kings of Heaven by Patrick Nell. This was the final book in the Ash and Sand trilogy. And I thought it was a great ending to the trilogy. This one had a little bit more of a slower start, but it ended really well. And just when you think that you've gotten to the last twist, he happens to throw in one or two more. So it was really great. This is a really good fantasy series. So those are all the books that I finished this week. Like I said, I finished quite a few. And then after I finished those, I decided to pick up Speaker for the Dead by Orson Scott Card. This is the second book in the Ender game trilogy. I think it's a trilogy. There actually might be more. I know there's more books in the Ender universe, but I think this one is the one that precedes Ender's Game. This takes place 3,000 years later, and so the first one had like kind of first contact with aliens, and it did not go well, and so the human race has found another species of aliens, and they're trying to do it right this time. So far, it's pretty good. I'm certainly blowing through it. Second book that I'm working through right now, and this one is a audiobook, and that is 1984 by George Orwell. And not that I have a big thing about conspiracies or anything, but already this book is making me go, like, how did he know that back when he wrote it? Because I believe it was written in 1948. There's so many things in there that I'm like, wow, like, this is exactly relevant to the world today. Oh my goodness. It's a little scary. And the last book that I'm listening to with my kids is called Elizabeth's Legacy. This is the first book in the Royal Institute of Magic. It's by Victor Klaus. This is an audiobook that I found on Audible that, they have a bunch of books that are free to listen to, and this was one of them. It's about a kid whose parents go missing, and he goes looking for them and finds out that they are part of this underground kind of magical society that has all sorts of kingdoms that are unknown in our world. So far, it's going okay. It does remind me a little bit of Harry Potter, but it does look like he took his own spin on things. Okay, so those are the books that I'm currently reading. So after I finish those, the things that I want to pick up next is the Before They Were Hanged by Joe Abercrombie. This is the second book in the First Law trilogy. When the Moon Was Ours by Anna Marie McLemore. And then when I'm finished with 1984, I'll pick up Shogun by James Clavell. So those are all the books that I hope to finish this week, and what I want to pick up next week is we end up into March and beginning of April. All right, thanks everybody for joining in. If you like this video, please like and subscribe.